So it says, this is interesting. Study the formation of solar systems. Yeah, according to the usual cosmology. How did the universe begin? There's a Big Bang, right? Okay, whatever it is. But the science sort of indicates this. You start with lighter elements, just H's, hydrogens, right? And those form, those are simple nuclei, but then you get a whole big clump of them, it starts nuclear fusion happening. You get helium, and eventually gigantic stars start fusing everything, and that's where you get the heavier elements, right? So where do you get a planet Earth in all this? And a Mars, and a Venus, and a Mercury, and another sun like ours. Eventually the super gigantic star explodes, right? Expelling all of these materials, the heavy elements and the lighter elements, and once again, you have a reformation, a coalescence. The gases in the middle form a star that begins more fusion, so of course on a smaller scale, and the big rocky clumps of things like water and iron and silicone, right? The rest of the elements, those form planets. You start again, right? So the whole thing explodes and reforms, and that's how you get it. We see this, interestingly enough, with Bnei Esav. You guys read the Parshas Vayishlach. What do we have there? It says that there were Alufim, according to basically the grandsons of Esav, right? Okay. Different groups among Esav's children. There's the Alufim almost basically match up with the list of Esav's children from his wives, right? 3 wives bore him children, and you have Aluf, Teman, whatever the list is. Amalek's in one of them, right? Yeah. Okay, Aluf, Korach, Aluf, or the rest of them. And then it says they went into the monarchical period. These were the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before there was a king reigning in Israel, right? What happened with, by the way, the tribes of Israel? There were tribes. We know who the leaders of the various tribes are. 2 generations of tribal leaders are mentioned in the Torah itself. And then it's assumed they're mentioned in passing, various leaders of the tribes in Sefer Shoftim. But then they went to a monarchy. There's an actual king, right? And that lasted for a few generations. That's what that lasted in Edom. And what happened afterwards? It says that Hadad died, or Hadar, depending on which Sefer you're reading in Bereshis or Divrei Yamim. And then they went back to Alufim. And the Alufim do not match the previous ones. These seem to be geographical Alufim. That is, Edom had a long history. First, they were organized by tribe, familial tribes, united monarchy. They kept getting different kings. There's no actual dynastic thing going on there. That period ended, and they went back to the Alufim system, but now it's geographical. Okay? There was an explosion, a recoalescence, a new division. Am Yisrael went through this too. Am Yisrael used to have tribes. And then they went through a monarchical period and a few upheavals, exiles, major wars, destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. The Jewish people are already in Bavel. Even a fellow who's obviously from the tribe of Benjamin, what's he referred to as? A Yehudi. And we have Targumim from the post-destruction, after the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. How does Onkelos translate Ivri? Yehuda. Ivriim is Yehuda. Interesting. Yehuda, Jews. Basically, it's referring to Jews. And by the time we get to second Beis HaMikdash times, we don't really have much reference to individual tribes. Maybe Jews still knew what tribes they were from, but everybody's basically been homogenized into Jews. Okay? New division. And it's only the Levim and the Kohanim who are keeping these even familial divisions. The Kohanim are divided into 24 Mishmaros, as are the Levim. So they knew the names of those Mishmarot. It even says the Maccabees knew they were from Yehoyariv. Not the shows from the Yehoyariv division, which existed since David HaMelech's time. But after that, what do we have among Jews? They say that they have to really keep this one. This is a real stark, mechitza that has to be maintained. Rabbi Avi Yosef, especially. Those are Ashkenazim, they're Sephardim, and they're Yemenites. They got to do like them. That's a division. Okay? We're stardust. Just like it happened to Bnei Yisrael. Am Yisrael got homogenized. There was an explosion, a rupture, and a reconstruction, and now we're redivided. And soon that division will come to an end, and Am Yisrael will find some other divide, religious and non-religious, right? Take your pick. Haradite. We all have a certain mix among ourselves, and that's just the lesson of things. So it applies, by the way, most importantly, this applies to whom? Amalek. Amalek was Amalek then, but Amalek is a shapeshifter. Amalek is always someone else. Ein Kan Makom Laharicha on that, so we'll just forget that.